than the 8 Republican candidates combined. For like the last few months, if you've watched the Republican debates, it's been like you turn it on, you're in some altered state, some universe that isn't the one we all live in. I've never seen more insanity from 8 people. One of them is kind of sane, you know, the one that believes in global warming and civil unions, and he speaks Chinese. That's why he's not going to get a single vote. I love the debate back in September where that Wolf Blitzer, somebody asked, how many of you believe in science? Only one raised his hand. Only one. And he was the Mormon governor of Utah. That's the one that believed in science. The guy who wears the magic underwear is the one who believes in science. And the other 7, they just stood there like this. I'm thinking, oh my God, don't ask them any more questions. This is too freaky. They're so scared the shit out of me. I'm like, I thought he was going to go down through all the subjects in school. Okay, how many here believe in mathematics? Woodshop, woodshop. Home ec. Man, but I started to think a few weeks ago, I thought, geez, these corporate America, Wall Street, I took this towel off a badger by somewhere between Roscommon and Clare. I said I'm going to wipe myself with this for the rest of the night. Just so you know, enjoy our snow here in Michigan. Why would the elites, why would the 1% allow their party to put up 8 bozos and not one person who has at least some kind of a chance of winning? Why would they do that, right? You'd have to stop and ask that question. Is the reason they haven't really put up a formidable foe for Obama is because they already believe they have their man? It kills me to say that, but it's the elephant in the room, isn't it? No pun intended. If he's taken the most money, if he's taken more money than all 8 of them combined, that's where we're at. That's where we're at. They can't figure out why the Democrats lost the House in last year's election in 2010. I have a theory. It has not been said often enough, hardly at all actually, that it was young people who put Obama into office. If you look at the statistics of how the election came down in 2008, first of all, I don't know how many of you know this, Obama lost every white age group, every white demographic, with the exception of 18 to 29-year-olds. You aware of that? He lost every white demographic. McCain got 57% of the white male vote and 53% of the white female vote. Now, that's not unusual for Democrats. Just to give you a little history, I bless Ann Richards for being the person that gave me these facts one day, some time ago, before she passed away. She said, you realize that since Harry Truman, no Democrat has won the White House, with the exception of Lyndon Johnson in '64, by winning a majority of the white male vote. They've lost the white male vote. There's a dispute with Kennedy's numbers. It's very close, very, very close election. But Jimmy Carter lost the white male vote. Bill Clinton lost the white male vote twice, in '92, in '96. And Barack Obama lost it in 2008. And yet each of them won the presidency of the United States. That's because a majority of women, with the exception of white women for Obama. And then the vast supermajority of people of color, and now in this last election, a record number of young people voting. That's how Obama won with those 10 million votes. And yet so much of our political conversation and discourse these days is about trying to appease or appeal to the white male voter, right? If you turn on any of the talk shows, it's all about, it all seems directed toward what that white guy in Kansas is worried about. And it's like, with all due respect, and I'm not a self-hating white guy, I'm just saying that that's not America anymore. We don't make up the majority of this country. And young people of all races are really the force forward. And they have made this country a liberal country. I don't know what the statistic is, maybe somebody here knows this. How many 18-year-olds become adults every year, turn 18? It's 2, 3 million, something like that? Anybody know? Let's just say it's somewhere between 1 and 3 million. Well, that means in the 11 years since George W. Bush won, if it's nearly 3 million, that's 33 million new voters of young people. And young people, those of you who are young in this room, already know what I'm going to say. This generation, what is so absolutely great about them, is that they have essentially eliminated racism amongst themselves. They are not racist, these kids. They are not bigots, right? If you have kids who are students here, they don't care about that stuff. And the racism of their grandparents' generation is dying with their grandparents' generation and will with mine. And your generation, young people, you know, if you stay on that path, they don't hate gay people. They're not homophobes. This is really good news. You know, how many years was it? 2004, the law that passed here in all these other states outlawing gay marriage? Well, in just 7 years, the majority of Americans now, according to the latest poll here back in September, 54% of the American public now believes that gay marriage should be the law of the land. 54%. That's the country we live in. We live in a liberal country. Even though people won't call themselves liberals, they think liberally. They come down on the liberal side on the issues. Pick an issue other than the death penalty. Or guns, maybe. And most of our fellow Americans take the liberal position. As I said, the majority of Americans are against these wars and want the troops home. The majority of our fellow Americans want stronger environmental laws, not weaker ones. That's a liberal issue. 85% of the American public believes women should be paid the same as men. That's a liberal issue. That's the country you live in. You live in a liberal country. I know I can see your faces. No, Mike. No, you're in East Lansing. That's why you're saying that. You think it's liberal. But when you get to Ovid, it's not that way. It's dark out there, and there's scary people. No. I know there's a lot of crazy people and a lot of crazy thinking. I know a lot of people believe that Adam and Eve rode on dinosaurs 6,000 years ago. Yes, I know all that. And I will give you the fact that there must be at least 50 million totally crazy people in this country. I'll give you that, 50 million. But that leaves 259 million of us who aren't crazy. Don't listen to the crazy so much. Don't be so threatened by that. That's not America. America is 54% believes in gay marriage now. That's your America. That's your America. You've got to start operating from that place and not this place of, oh, Mike, you don't understand. No, they're gonna. I know you're saying those eight candidates are crazy, but Bush was crazy and he won. No, he didn't. And I'm not referring to the hanging chads. I'm just talking about the popular vote. Your fellow Americans, by 500,000 votes, 500,000 votes, wanted Gore over Bush. 500,000 more votes than Bush. A clear victory in the popular vote. That's your fellow Americans. In fact, in the last 3 presidential elections in this last decade, 2000, 2004, and 2008, your fellow Americans have voted for the liberal 2/3 of the time. 2 of those 3 elections were won by the liberal. Why do you think this is a conservative country? Why do you think this is a redneck, Republican, reactionary country? It isn't. It's just that, well, they have all the money. They're just, yes, they have a lot of money. Yes, they do have a lot of money. And we need money out of politics as soon as possible. In fact, we need a constitutional amendment that says that. I just asked one of the candidates up in Flint, who's running for Congress, a Democrat, this year, would he take a pledge saying that he will put at the top of his agenda, if he's elected to Congress, the removal of money from our electoral system? And he said yes. And I got to tell you, I've asked around the country, people who started to ask this question, you'd be surprised how many people are saying yes. They will run on this and they will say, vote me out if I don't make this my top priority. Because you see, if we don't fix this part first, right, we can't get the rest of it done. Because this is a one-person, one-vote country. But the 400 billionaires who have more combined wealth than 150 million Americans combined. Do you realize that? Do you understand that? Don't take my word for it. Forbes magazine will tell you the same thing. 400 Americans have more than 150 million Americans combined. How dare we call this a democracy, a fair country? Doesn't democracy imply that everybody has a chair at the table? Everybody, right? Some have a cushier chair, some have an older chair, some have a new chair that boomers don't understand how to operate it. But the idea is that we all have a chair, right? And there's a pie on the table, and while we probably, as humans, are not capable of dividing that pie up evenly, we can at least divide it up fairly. Can't we? Shouldn't we? Isn't that the American way? Isn't that our egalitarian nature? Isn't that what we are supposed to be? So I know you think, oh, Mike, we would never get this change because of 400 billionaires and 1%, everybody, they control this whole thing, and it's impossible. Yeah, but they don't have their hand on your hand when you close that curtain, when you're in there crying over Hussein. That must, think about, you think you're upset that those who have the money control our politics. Imagine what they must feel every night when they go to bed. They have got to be so scared shitless half the time, thinking, okay, yes, I know, we bought just about everybody in Congress. But on election day, oh God, we only get 400 votes. We only get 400 votes. That is got to, think about that if you were one of them. You only have 400 votes, but you somehow have to get the 150 million to go with you. They don't seem daunted by that Herculean task, do they? But we're like, we wouldn't have accomplished anything in this country. Martin Luther King said, oh, we can't, the police, they have guns, we don't have guns. They have hoses, they have dogs, we don't have that. We'll lose. If the suffragettes in the 1840s had said, what's the point of trying to get a constitutional amendment passed to give us the vote? I mean, have you read about them, the suffragettes, the early ones? What they went through? They were jailed, they were tortured. Their husbands divorced them. Nobody would marry them. They were shunned. They were thought of as weirdos. Absolute friggin' weirdos. And yet they persevered and they continued on and they continued on, knowing this one horrible, seemingly insurmountable fact. To get that amendment passed, not one single woman would be able to vote to get it passed. Not one woman would be able to have a